All right, let's start with a picture, if you will. Just imagine this: 7,000 square feet of empty medical office space, 16 exam rooms, 2 big treatment rooms, all set up for what? 20 doctors maybe? But for 4 years there were just 3 of us rattling around in there. Rent due every month, most of the rooms sitting there collecting dust. I mean, that does something to you. You start betting on a future you can't see, right? And you kind of wonder, am I nuts, or is this faith? And honestly, through that whole stretch, the only thing that kept me steady was this. 6 words, said mindlessly hundreds of times a day. I will survive. I will thrive. Not rocket science, not belief, just repetition, survival. We'll get to that, but to make sense of why those words mattered, I have to take you back a bit. So 1985, I graduate med school in Nigeria. Big moment. Many years of training, finally a doctor. But I moved to Canada, and suddenly none of it counts. My credentials? Not recognized. In the eyes of the system, I wasn't a doctor. Not yet. So I'm on social welfare for a month. Yeah, welfare. Then security guard, night shift. I remember those 3 months clearly. Lots of time to think at 3 a.m., let me tell you. After that, I land a factory job, all the way on the production line, in Toronto. One day, the compounder leaves, quits on the spot. I hear someone say, "Who can read chemical formulas?" I put up my hand. And next week, I'm mixing industrial chemicals. A doctor, back in Nigeria, now triple-checking MSDS labels in a factory basement in Canada. Funny thing, that careful reading? It's like, even now, before I record a podcast, I still find myself triple-checking medical terms, worried I'll trip over them. Some habits stick. Anyway, I'm not telling you this for sympathy. Honestly. It's just, when everything you built disappears, you start to learn what you're made of. You strip everything down to basics and figure out what actually works. That's the bit I hope people take away. The real turning point? That came through the Canadian Armed Forces. They had this medical officer training program, perfect for someone who already did the work, with nowhere to practice. So I joined up. Did my internship in Saskatoon, took all the licensing exams. Suddenly, I go from security guard to battalion medical officer with Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry. Try saying that 5 times quickly. I still get tongue-tied. Later, I was deputy base surgeon in Calgary. Over a couple of decades, I moved all over. Milk River in Alberta, tiny towns, big emergencies, rehab clinics, pain management, you name it. Everything from Norwegian offshore medicals to running travel clinics. Lots of hats. But if you asked me then if I'd ever build my own place, I'd have said no way. But then, 2010, I get this itch, wanting to set up something meaningful, somewhere I could help put down roots. So, British Columbia, West Kelowna. I wanted to build a practice that wasn't just about one doc in a box, but a proper team. A place where families didn't have to drive all over the province to get care. So, I built for scale. I figured, if you dream, dream big, right? Or maybe I was just impatient. Either way, it was a gamble. Looking back, it's easy to say, "Oh, that's vision." But the truth is, it was part vision, part pure stubbornness. What keeps someone going through that, past all the paperwork and skepticism? Part of it was honestly the obstacles. There's the licensure maze, sure, but then there's people looking at you. An African Canadian, funny accent, maybe a bit too eager, and you can see it in their eyes. Is this guy for real? You get good at reading skepticism. That's probably the biggest lesson in leadership, if I can call it that. Not just having an idea, but learning how to get people on board when they're not sure you belong in the room. The only way through that is persistence and, well, sometimes just putting one foot in front of the other. But here's where things really got dicey. I had this whole space for 20 docs, and after all the effort, all those years, I could only ever get 2 others to join me. 4 years carrying that rent. That gap between vision and reality, it feels enormous. That's when my method stopped being theory and became survival. Every day, multiple times, I'd walk up and down those empty halls muttering, "I will survive. I will thrive." Not because I believed it, I didn't half the time. But I noticed, just by saying it, out loud, again and again, I stayed just functional enough to keep moving. Some days, I'd do 200 repetitions before lunch. My poor receptionist probably thought I'd lost my mind, honestly. But those words, the articulation, they didn't fix everything, right? They didn't magically make new doctors appear. What they did was buy me time, mental space to see what was actually going on. And at some point I realized, look, the real problem wasn't market forces or bad luck. It was bias. My background was scaring off some candidates, and the usual channels weren't working for me the way they might for others. Hard thing to admit, but once I saw it, I could start working around it. So I flipped the script a bit. I went looking for doctors who came from underrepresented backgrounds, people who would see my struggle, maybe even value it. I used a bias to solve a bias, in a way. And you know what? It worked. We grew, slowly at first, then the momentum built. By 2022, we had 6 physicians. By 2024, we hit full speed, 20 docs, rooms filled, lights on in every wing. So, did that repetition, those articulations, fix my situation? No. What they did do was let me keep going long enough to work it out. Didn't change reality, but changed my head enough so I could keep fighting. It's not about belief. It's not about positivity. It's a tool when you've run out of other tools. And next time, I'll break down exactly how this method works. You'll see why it's not wishful thinking. It's just action. That's all for today. I appreciate you sticking with the story. I'm Dr. Toye Oyelese, and we'll dive deeper into the method in episode 2. See you then.